call is already toast, right? So we kind of start just spitballing random ideas, and we're like, all right, I had a show at the time called T-Talk, where on my YouTube I would go through all the drama that was online, and I'd kind of like poke light at it and make fun of it. So I thought, why not just kind of take what we did with the live stream and combine that with the T-Talk, and let's just make a podcast where we talk about all the drama going on in Gen Z and social media, and I'll explain it to you. And it'll be this really cool co-viewing opportunity where kids can watch with their parents, right? Kids are always trying to explain what's going on social media to their parents. Their parents aren't quite getting it. They get to watch Dave and be like, I relate to that guy.
Yes.
And then people that are my age and younger get to watch me and Bree and be like, oh, well, I relate to them. So it created this really cool experience, and it made a lot of people say, like, what the why are these two together? And I think that's a reaction that myself and my company have really looked at as, that means you're doing something right. When people are asking why, when people are starting to get intrigued, I mean, that means you're on the forefront of something really special, I think. So, yeah.
And you and Bree, remind us who Bree is and how you guys got together.
Yes, so Bree Chicken Fry, she is the other host of the podcast. And we had come across her. She was already an employee at Barstool. She had been doing her own podcast. And we had felt like me and Dave had a good dynamic, but there was something missing. We needed another point of view. We needed someone else that was going to kind of bring in an opposing side, because a lot of times me and Dave would agree with each other. So we cycled through a couple of the people at Barstool, trying out different talents, seeing who would work out, and when Bree came on, it just fit. I think having that female perspective is huge, especially because a lot of my audience is female. I think having someone that was quick and witty and was able to, you know, hang with us at the same time, she was really the perfect fit, and I think that's what truly made BFFs a really, really good show, is having all of us together.
4 years in.
That's amazing. 4 years in.
Yeah.
Did you say her name is Bree Chicken Fry?
Yeah. So
that's a great name.
Yeah.
Makes me hungry.
She had liked the chicken fry snacks, so she had called her username Brianna Chicken Fry, and it's kind of just
there. You go.
Yeah, stuff.
All right, so let's go back even further, because before you get to BFFs, as you mentioned, you're creating a highly successful YouTube channel. You're also building an empire from a pretty early age. Why?
Yeah. I've said this a little bit before, but I haven't touched on it a lot. Ever since I was really young, I had always had this like calling or feeling where I was like, I know the name Josh Richards will be known. And I used to pray about it before I would go to bed every single night. And, you know, when I was 3 or 4, I thought I was going to be a superhero. I thought I was going to be Ben 10, right? That same notion of, like, the name Josh Richards will be known never left me. It went from that to being, oh, I'm going to be a pro hockey player. I'm going to be an NHL player. And then, oh, I'm going to be a professional lacrosse player. And then, oh, I'm going to use my love for hockey and create a hockey shirt company, and I'll have the biggest apparel brand in hockey, and that will bring my name Josh Richards around. And it just kind of kept going and going and going until one day my sister had asked me to go in a video with her on this app called Musical.ly. And so she has this little like dance routine we're going to do, and I was like, okay, cool, let's do this. And I'm 13. I just finished my 8th grade of school, and she's 12. And so we do this little video, and to us it blows up. Running around the house, we're yelling and screaming, and it got like 50 likes, I think. Okay. But to us, that was viral.
Huge.
We were like, oh my goodness, we don't even know 50 people. So we go and I look at the comments, and there's like 2 or 3 of the comments that are like, hey, what's his username? And they're from girls, and I'm like, kind of feeling myself now. I'm like, all right, I got to make myself one of these accounts. So I make one, and very quickly kind of go about it in an entrepreneurial spirit. I had started a couple different brands in my neighborhood. If that was like a lacrosse brand where I would string sticks and dye the mesh and wax coat it so it was waterproof, and when you were playing in the rain your pocket consistency stayed the same. Or I had a hockey shirt company with different slogans where we'd go to tournaments. So right away I was like, oh, is there a way to make money off this? Like, how can I turn this into a business? And so me and my sister found the live component of the app, where you can go live, and much like Twitch today, that's like one of the biggest platforms, you'll go live and people will subscribe or send donos. And not only were they able to do that on this platform when I was going live as well, but there was actually a list that showed you the top 200 spending customers every single day. So the people that were donating the most. So I was sitting there at 13 like, well, this is silly. Like, why do I need 10 million followers when I can have the top 200 spenders every single day? Just kind of go direct to consumer. So I had my sister bring out the iPad. She'd sit beside me, and I put on her 15% commission-based salary. And she'd sit beside me, and she'd go through that list of 200 people logged into my account, follow every single one of them, like 15 other videos. They'd get 16 notifications from a random Josh Richards kid. They'd see I'm live, because my profile would be blinking. They'd be like, oh, all right, let me go check it out. they'd come into the live. I know it was one of them because their usernames were highlighted in red because I just followed them. So I would give them extra attention, be like, yo, what's up, what's up? They'd end up sending gifts, and me and my sister would be like, nice, got him. And so then we kept doing that, and we like did that in my parents' basement for a year or 2 years, just starting to make like really good money. And
Like, what's real money?
we were at, probably after the first month, we were doing like $600 a week.
Nice.
Being like 13 years old,
Huge.
right?
Oh my God.
So we're sitting there like, wow, we are raking it in. We're set for life. Like
Yeah.
we were blown away. And I remember my dad comes to me one day because all this money is going from the app through his PayPal into my bank account. So he's getting a notification every time. And you know, it happens a couple times. I think it was probably the third week we were doing it, and he comes up and he's like, all right, I get it, you're in high school, but drugs and selling drugs, that's just not the end. I'm like, that, no, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. So I have to explain him what social media is and going live, and he's like, all right, I'm not sure I really understand, but you're making great money, so keep it up, you know? And so then he started diving deep into social media, and I always credit my parents because I wouldn't be here without them. They were my biggest supporters through everything from the early companies I tried to do. They would, you know, buy the blank t-shirts and give me a 100-yard mesh spool for the lacrosse thing. And then as soon as I started doing social media, my dad and mom were both like, all right, we need to know everything we can about this. We need to learn as much as we can. Oh, I'll take a day off of work, Josh, to fly you to this event in Washington so that you can go and collab with other creators. And there were all these little things that, you know, they didn't really have to do, but they were just the most supportive parents in the world, and allowed me to follow this dream at a young age and go to the United States, go to different countries when I was younger and should be in school. Like, they believed in me and believed in what I was doing. So, yeah, really, really huge props to that.
How soon into that journey are you like, okay, I'm in it, this is going to be my life, I am devoting myself to this, I am following, candidly, a pretty well-trod path, like, I'm moving to LA, like, I'm doing it. Like, when did it sort of flip for you?
Yeah, after 2 years of being on social media is really when I think I decided, like, no, I could turn this into something full-time. I could really turn this into a media empire and build companies off of this and continue to grow in my own social as well. So after those 2 years, I started to make some friends in the social media world. We decided we were going to go on a tour. So we had gotten all together, had this person that was repping the tour and kind of managing it. We did, I believe, 30 cities across the United States. And that was the moment I think I was first able to see it. You know, I come from a small town, 15,000, 16,000 people, and everyone already knew me before I did social media. So there wasn't this, like, rise to fame I felt or anything like that in my town. If anything, it was the opposite because I was doing something different and new, right? It was more like, oh, look at this loser doing social media. So that was the first time I'd ever seen faces to these people commenting and liking my content. And that's really when I was like, holy cow, there's really something here.
Yeah.
So we finished the tour. We end up in a pretty tough situation where us as kids, we hadn't signed anything. We had kind of done all these handshake deals with these people running the tour, and we all get screwed out of a bunch of money. The tour did really well for them. We were doing like 2,000 people sold out shows every single place we went. On top of that, we do dinners and VIP things and all these different things where people would select who their favorite fans or their favorite person to see was, so you were supposed to get that cut. And it was, I think I got $700 by the end of it. Like, it was like, it didn't even cover the hotels. You know what I mean? Like, or the food that we had to go and get. So it was a tough situation, and it was a learning one that I'm glad happened early, because right then I was like, all right, this is the Wild West. Social media is new. No one's paying attention, like, in the sense of protecting the creator. At this point, there's no WME, CAA. They're not coming to sign kids yet. They're not even, like, looking at what TikTok could be.
And this is only, what, 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
this is 2019. Yeah. Like, so it's not that long ago, right? And that was the moment where I was like, okay, I need to start something that's going to be by the creator for the creator. So I started a management company. That's when I moved to LA. That's when me and all my friends started the Sway House. That's when I get looped in with Chris Sawtelle, who's my business partner now with Crosscheck. He was at ICM. We had to sign to an agency, our management company, because we didn't have a license. So for them to be we needed that. So we went and met with ICM. Chris had started the digital division over there, so that was the person we were put in contact with, and we worked out a deal with them, started working with them. Chris became also my manager at the time, or my agent. And then as time moves forward, I end up leaving Talent X, sell my shares there, and that's when I was like, all right, I want to make a production company. I want to start being able to bring together the worlds of social and traditional media, start bridging those as they are getting closer and closer together, and we all see our favorite actors and athletes now doing social media, and now we see social media influencers stepping into music and movies, and as these worlds are colliding, like, how can I be at the forefront of that and producing all that content? So started Crosscheck. Chris was sitting in his comfy job at ICM, and I was like, why don't you just listen to me, this 19-year-old kid, and leave your job and come and work with me, and we'll start Crosscheck together. So after a few months of, continuously knocking on Chris's door and asking him, I convinced him. And so he listened to me, came over, and we started Crosscheck, and we've been doing that for the last 3 years.
When it comes to like two middle-aged dudes like Jason and I, right? What content can we learn from you that actually performs the best, and which content performs the worst?
I mean, content that performs the best versus worst, I think that's very dependent on the creator and on the person that's creating the content, right? Because you already have a built-in audience. You know your audience. You've been from the world of sports. You know anytime you're going to be talking about sports, that's going to play to your audience, right? So I think more about like knowing what content's going to do bad or knowing what content's going to do good. It's about knowing your audience, because that's going to lead you to the right path. So I know, for example, my audience and my demographic, if I go on my TikTok, it's going to be 70-75% women, 20-25% men, right? And I also know that the age demo there is going to really range from 16 to probably 24 is really where my age demo sits. So I go and think, okay, what are people in that age group going to like? What content is going to be fun for them? Okay, what's something relatable that we're all doing? All right, everyone's dating at that age, right? So how do I bring in a really funny conversation or debate that me and my girlfriend are going through, and I bring that to TikTok, and we're able to share it, and now all these kids that are 16 and 24 are sending it to their boyfriends or sending it to their girlfriends, and they're like, we literally had the exact same argument. Oh my God, this is so crazy. My favorite creators go. That is, to me, what builds good content. When you're able to show to your audience that, you're going through the same things they're going through, you're able to play that relatable card with them. That not only is going to make good content, but continue your building community.
One of the things you have been so successful at, and you demonstrated it even in the past few minutes, is identifying and cultivating an audience. Mm-hmm. So, you've talked about sort of the creator side. How do you essentially make a business out of those insights? Because it feels like, if we're looking at your business ventures, that's your, this is an overused term, that's your superpower, is understanding the audience. You're clearly an entrepreneur as well. So how do you build something that leverages those insights?
Yeah. Today, every company is trying to find a way to communicate with Gen Z. How can I help a company by investing? Or if I really enjoy this brand and I want to be a part of it, how can I leverage myself? Who knows how to communicate to Gen Z? Yeah. Who knows what they're interested in, knows what their likes and dislikes are? How can I leverage that for this company? Mm-hmm. So I think that's really how I look at my following, and I'm able to turn it into a business, because the cable TV commercials, they're not where these companies are wanting to go anymore. They're wanting to go to social. How can we bring our stuff to TikTok? Unless it's like a Super Bowl commercial, it makes way more sense to go on social. So I think it's just about leveraging my knowledge and my ability of knowing how to grow on social media, and knowing how to bring those companies and their products to a younger audience.
So, Josh, when you think about you and your partner Chris, when you think about engaging businesses, are you guys sitting back on your heels and waiting for these great companies to reach out to you? Or do you proactively go out and engage with them? Yeah. And how do you do it?
Yeah, no, we're very proactive. One of the first things I learned from coming out to LA was how often agencies and agents are in the get call business instead of making calls, right? Mm. They sit behind a desk or they kind of sit there and they kind of wait around, and if one of their 10, 15 clients is someone that's getting a lot of inbound and people are all, they're like, perfect, I can do this, I can answer the phone all day. And I say, yeah, sure, we'll take your money. Like, me and Chris will have these weekly meetings where we talk to each other and I'm telling him about different brands I'm enjoying right now, or different campaigns I see brands doing that I'm really interested in, or, oh, I see this company kind of rising, maybe there's an investment play or equity play there. And we talk about that, and then we'll go out and reach out to the company. This, I think, shows the company, okay, this is an authentic relationship. This is the creator who is actually reaching out to us. They really must enjoy our brand. This is something they want more than just, oh, we're going to offer them a paycheck and they want the money.
Yeah.
So for us being proactive, it gives us more ability to do what we want with the campaign, because we're usually able to not only come with them with, hey, we're really interested in working with you guys, but here's 3 different tiers of what the deal could look like. Here's, that tier 1 that's going to cost a little bit more, but look at all these really cool different videos we can do, or high production value stuff we can do, like we did with Fallout, where we made a whole trailer and people were like, holy, is Josh in the Fallout show coming out on Prime Video?
Right.
So then you can have these different tier things, and that allows us to feel like we get more of that creative control, which my audience is going to enjoy that more. It doesn't feel like a billboard. They watch that ad and they actually consume it and they enjoy it. They're like, this is how ads should be done. This is instead of okay, here's another brand post, right?
Right.
So,
And Josh, is that through like social media, text, email, or do you and Chris try to set up a Zoom or a meeting in person?
yeah, so it typically starts off with an email. I think people really undervalue the cold email. That's what I did even when I was like 17, 18, just to meet people. It was, hey, I'm really interested in just getting to pick your ear for 30 minutes. Would you like to hop on the call? And that's how I was able to make a lot of connections in the venture world, and that's how I was able to meet people like Mark Wahlberg when we started the production company. We helped a ton. Like, I think the cold email is so valuable. So we'll start off typically with that, and then if the conversation.
Sorry to interrupt you, but so what do you say in that email?
Yeah, I mean, it varies depending on, who I'm talking to, but...
so Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah,
what do you say to Mark Wahlberg?
I mean, for Mark, I looked up to him when I was younger. I had always looked at him as somebody that was able to transition from career to career really, really seamlessly and well. Starts off and he's Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, right? And I'd always thought, like, that is pretty similar to the social media creator, the person that makes, it's like a one-hit wonder kind of vibe today. You never know how long that lifespan's going to be. If they don't keep making really good content, they're going to disappear, right? The same way, like, musicians back then, they make one good song, a couple good songs. If that was it, then they, fell off and no one really heard from them again. So he was able to transition and then go into acting and start doing his acting. And then he, becomes an entrepreneur and is opening up different companies. It's like, he might have done the steps in a different way, but I always had looked at that and been like, oh, that's really inspiring. I kind of want to follow those footsteps. So I pretty much said that in the email, right? I looked up to you. I've seen how you've had an ability to transition from career to career. I'm someone that really aspires to do that and wants my career to kind of follow in your footsteps. And I'm starting this production company, so I would love to be able to pick your ear on just advice and how I can navigate Hollywood. So I sent that email. It ended up getting received by the head of his production company, Archie Gibbs. Got on the phone with him, talked with him for a while. He was like, you really do remind me of Mark. Let me get you in contact with Mark.
Wow.
And then I got in contact with Mark, and that's when we started the joint venture for the production company. So that's where my production company was for the first year with his unscripted company. And he was able to, do the whole parade me around Hollywood and be able to introduce me to certain people. And that really helped kind of get us going at the beginning and allowed me to sit in rooms as a 19, 18-year-old and have people take me seriously because Mark had said, no, I trust him.
When you're approaching different deals, whether it's a brand, whether it's a company, you've hit on something that Alex talks about a lot, and we've talked about a lot on the show, which is moving from sort of asset to principal. And a lot of what is embedded in that is getting a stake, getting equity. How much do you think about sort of the ownership piece? Because clearly the entrepreneurial side of you wants to be an owner, it sounds like. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm always thinking about that. If that's from when I'm working with a brand or a company, or even when I'm creating my own IP as content, because you're building a library, right? And that can then go and sell one day. I mean, I think it's something I always think about, especially because I always want to be able to be a part of the present and the future and keep my finger on that pulse. And I think there's no better way than investing in a company that's going to be massive in the next 5 to 7 years, right? That allows me in 5 to 7 years to still be a part of the conversation. So for me, it's something that's really important. It's something that has been given to me as advice when talking to people like Ashton Kutcher. And he said, you know, if I had taken equity in every single one of the deals that I had done for commercials when I was younger, instead of the paycheck, even if I cut the paycheck in half and took it as equity instead, I would be 100x richer than I am today. So there's just been a lot of people that, you know, from me doing those calls and cold emails, like that's the lessons that have been taught to me, and those people have been through it, and I always like to pride myself in knowing what I know and knowing what I don't. So I'm going to listen to the people that do know it and hopefully make the right decisions.
I mean, it's interesting too. I mean, just to prod you a little bit, there are a lot. I mean, you talk about the echoes and the similarities with Mark Wahlberg, and you said it earlier, Josh. There are a lot of similarities between what's happened with athletes and what's happened with creators. Don't you think? I mean, this whole notion of not just endorsing a brand, but being, I mean, this is something you've talked about a lot also from your early days as a player.
Yeah, and look, I think that the real power is in the talent, right? And I think we've seen this in college sports. We've seen this on entrepreneurship, where at one point, probably Mark Wahlberg and I started, a talent was just a talent. You get a fee and you stay in your corner. Today, the pendulum is shifting in NIL, with the actual players and the students have more power than the NCAA. I guess for me, you know, I entered the big leagues at 18 years old, and I was an all-star at 19 years old. So by nature, the power came to me because I was able to make an impact. And I think the same is, you know, for you guys. Companies, whether it's Armani, New Balance, whoever you work with, they want you to bring, you know, enterprise value to them, revenue, eyeballs, and you're doing that as well as anybody. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. I think that's what they look at when they're deciding who they want to align with. Who do we want to have back our brand? Who do we want to have be the modern day? You don't put the brand logo up on a billboard anymore. You can stick it on someone's back and they can go walk around and wear it, right? So I think that's exactly what we're looking at.
All right, so Josh, if you were a part owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Lynx, 2 or 3 things that you would be thinking about to position those brands ahead of the rest of the other teams?
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that I've noticed a couple teams step in and really start focusing on is, you know, their social play. And I think that does build a massive community. Like I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan, and I think they are one of the teams that I've noticed through sports that are doing an incredible job from their social side. Like when you look at their TikTok, when you look at the videos they're posting and how much they're posting, their social team is in on every single trend that's going on as soon as it's happening, and they're getting their players to get involved in it every single week when they're in practice and, you know, coming off of practice or going in to start. Like, they're always getting these really cool clips. And I think that does, going back to like building community, it does really get the fan to get to know more about the, you know, their favorite quarterback, Josh Allen, or to get to know more about the new wide receiver coming into the team, Keon Coleman. It's the same thing we've almost seen with the people getting obsessed with watching the Hard Knocks stuff, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, well, they're one of my new favorite teams now just because they just got this Hard Knocks, and you really get to see, you know, how much these guys are putting into this. It's not just, oh, we're going out and we're playing a fun sport today. This is their lives, and they are putting every single ounce of like blood, sweat, and tears into it every single day, and you get to start to have that same feeling like transcend through you by watching the content. So for me, I think social obviously is a massive play to get the fans just to ride even more and more for your team. But I mean, with Minnesota, you got some new guys coming in this year, so getting to film that dynamic and how you guys are building off of, you know, a great year last year. Anthony Edwards absolutely balling out in the playoffs. Like, getting to film this journey as this new team comes together with a huge trade, to me, that's something I would really want to watch, and I think separates. Like, there's not people doing their own videos of these big trades and how this new dynamic is coming into work together and how these two superstars are going to blend and mesh. Like, that's something as a fan of just sports I'd want to see. all the time, and I would consider.
So let's stick with sports if we can, because, you know, one of the things, you're clearly a passionate fan. It is fascinating, just as an aside, that the Buffalo Bills, with all apologies to Bills Mafia, is the most forward thing. Is that when you think Buffalo, you don't always think
not
that, right?
necessarily the way you would think.
Yeah,
yeah,
fascinating. But as you look across the sports world, like from a league or from a sports perspective, like, who understands their audience the best? I mean, you've done some work with the NHL, I know. Like, who is sort of getting it out there?
I do think that the NFL is probably at the top, I would say. I think the NBA is doing really cool things as well. Like, I think a lot of people were quick to hate on, like, the play-in tournament, but I think it gave us incredible basketball.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that the NFL has done a good job of not only knowing their audience, but knowing how to expand their audience as well. And even the stuff with, you know, Taylor Swift, like them playing into that. There was a lot of people at the beginning that were like kind of getting mad about it, but when you look at the growth and how many, you know, guys' girlfriends now aren't just, you know, oh, I cheer for the Kansas City Chiefs because of Taylor Swift. They actually have become fans of the game. It's done something that that wouldn't have happened if they didn't start showing Taylor Swift at those games, right? Like that type of community wouldn't have been as big into football if that didn't happen. So I think they saw that and they ran with it, and that was a really smart play. I don't know if I necessarily call this the league doing it. I think Caitlin Clark is doing it for the WNBA and being like the biggest talked about athlete this past year and bringing such a massive audience. Me personally, I had never watched WNBA really before. I